college.
Boudreaux's still living here in Scottsdale?
Now, what year is that paper?
1948. Am I supposed to?
Yeah, tell me what that, okay.
Okay, this was in 1948, Cleveland and the Red Sox, Boston Red Sox, finished in a tie
Uh-huh.
for the pennant.
Ah.
And so they had a one-game playoff, and they had a coin toss, and Boston won, and so the game was played in Boston. And Boudreaux was the manager of the Cleveland Indians and the player. And he knew that the team would be tight because, you know, going out playing on an away field and just one shot. So in order to relieve that tightness, he moved himself up in the batting order because he had such confidence in himself. And so in the game, the first time up, he had a home run. Home run to break the ice right away. Because it's a kind of a game that if you go 3-4 innings, nobody scores, then it's really tight. Everybody's tight. So. And anyway, so Cleveland won the game and won the pennant. And then went on to win the World Series in 6 games, 4-2. Boudreaux was the most valuable player. Super. Greatest shortstop I ever saw. New York, let's see, 6.5 million.
I can't believe you said that.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
You know what I'll do? I'll take that and laminate it.
Yeah, because you don't you don't need everything here.
Uh-huh. I'm gonna use your signs to your pack for big salary. I want to see what his big salary was, Dad. Stan Musial's big salary was. Oh, he got 100,000 for 2 seasons.
For 2, that's fall.
50,000 a year.
50, yeah.
That's pretty. Wait a minute. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh, God.
That's,
Gonna build this season.
yeah.
Man, should I buy a van?
I don't think so.
Memory going, nothing like you gotta have memory. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
There we are. Here's Miss America. Who had a penmanship second to none. He wrote this for me.
What year was that?
1942-43. Right in there. I can't remember exactly. Well, it'll have to be there. Oh, it's a reference here. Now we're getting into the serious stuff. Fading away a little bit. Apparently this stuff doesn't last forever. Now this guy here is Lyman Lewis. This picture was taken in 1936. He had just taken a picture of me. He took a picture of himself.
Right.
He's
In a
facing a
mirror?
mirror. He's looking in the mirror. And he had, 1934, my mistake. He had taken a picture of me in my Boy Scout uniform, which I have somewhere along here, in the basement of the Fallensby City Building. You know the city building?
Yes, uh-huh.
Downstairs. He was the
And
photographer.
he was the photographer.
For Fallensby Steel.
Is he still on? No.
Oh, no, he's gone. But he was around till 2 or 3 years ago.
Wow.
There's my wonderful district.
Honorable discharge from the Marine
Was enlisted at Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on the first day of November 1943. Private first class. Weapons qualification, rifle on the 21st of January 44 and a bayonet on a February 3rd, 44. Spatial military qualifications, anti-aircraft, and machine gun.
Wow.
Participated in action against the enemy at Okinawa, Ryukyu Islands, 1st April 45 to 21st June 45. participated in the occupation of China. So,
Do they have a ceremony when they give this to you, or is it just something you get?
no, it's just something you get.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Here's when I attended the Midwest Institute of Alcohol Studies at the University of Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, I remember when you went up there, sure.
Now, how about this? This is a Chinese newspaper.
It is?
This is a Chinese newspaper, and it says here, this is the People's Herald, Qingdao, China, Ka Tong, president and publisher. They have the Peihai Cafe, that's where there's Jimmy's. They give American names to some of these places, Jimmy's. There's Hollywood, 2 words, bar and restaurant. The OK Bar, US Bar, Shanghai Bar. Oh, wait a minute here, see. Okay, is this worth something? Tsingtao, China, November 10th, 1945. This is, Tsingtao is no more, it's called Qingdao now. They changed it to Garbage Cheese.
That's really in good condition.
This paper is published daily except Mondays and holidays. That's something. I need copies of the discharge memos. These are instructions, things they gave us. See, I made a mistake in not converting, we had $10,000 life insurance. And then when I got out of the service, we could have continued, it was like $6 a month. But you got dividends every year because it's non-profit. Your dividends were greater than what you paid, so it didn't cost you anything. But we didn't have the money, and so we didn't continue it, and I was sad, but, you know, could still have it. K. Key How, we wash all kinds of clothes. 81 Quang Chao Road. And I knew Tsingtao, China, like I know Paul.
Yeah.
I knew the back alleys, the whole bit. It was amazing.
Chinese laundromat.
I had 1460, I remember. Report of separation when they let me out. And here's a little letter from Harry Truman that we all got. And this is the last letter we got from Robert. There's a ship I came home on. USS General Butler.
Oh, yeah?
5,000 troops on it.
Neat.
And you pulled into where?
San Diego, here it is, right on the back. We left Tsingtao on March 3rd, 30th, and we hit San Diego on April 20th. 20 days. It's Easter Sunday.
You were going in the right direction, weren't you?
Yeah. This is when we had Christmas in St. Thomas, 1945. 6th Marine Division and what do you call it? There was a card from my brother when he was at Paris Island. This was a V-mail letter.
What is
They
it?
call a V-mail, where you wrote your letter out and then they photographed it and made it very small. They call them V-mail. And they could send more volume. It's expensive. Well, this is the last letter my brother wrote me. June 6th. He died on the 14th. He says that about him. They were getting ready for the invasion. Can't tell you that. This is a relative program. So they were on Hawaii, they were in Maui. So they probably were boarding ship the very next day because it would take them 2 or 3 days to get there and then they have to rendezvous and everything. There's a picture of him, that's him on the left. Okay, what do we got here now? Let's see. Oh, that's just listed Pittsburgh. That's the discharge copies. Okay. That's the new China restaurant. So you see where I spent my
I can't believe
time.
they had business cards. I'm surprised they had them. I mean, I don't know. I guess it was longer than it was.
Never be an air like that. Never be people like that.
1944.
What are those you have in your hand?
That's my brother.
Did you get those from some of his buddies, or were those pictures he had
Sent to my mother. Yeah, yeah. And there's. This is. You know, they have his name on the city building here at Folmsby.
Yes. And
But George Ross was telling me that they, somewhere, I don't know where it is, in West Virginia, they got a memorial for all servicemen, and his name's not on it. You know, and those things happen, they make mistakes.
Right.
But he's checking it out, he's checking it out.
Oh, good.
And there's me and my Follinsby Blue Wave Tigers, 16 and 1.
Really?
16 and 1.
Now what year's
Look at
that? I've got to date these.
This would be 19, let's see. This would be 1959-60. See if there's anybody you know in there.
Gotta write 16 and 1.
We had won something like 12 in a row, and we went up to play Wharton, and the old Wharton gym was like the old Follinsby gym, you know, the dugout and the low ceilings and everything. And so just before the game started, the official come over and brought us together, the two coaches. And he said, if you notice the floor, the black lines are almost obliterated because they didn't hardly use the floor anymore. They didn't repaint them. So where you shoot your free throws, the black line where you have to put your toe, you know, you could already see it. He says, "No, I'm not going to call them close on the line." He said, "Because it's hard to see." He said, "You know, just so you're right there." And we said, "Fine." So in the game, it was nip and tuck, see, going back and forth, back and forth. So now we come down, we're up by 1 point. And there's about 5 seconds to go, and my man gets fouled, Berlin West. And he's good. So I always taught my kids in practice to stand an inch behind the line. I used to study them, watch them. I used to stand there and watch them put their foot down because I wanted it to be a habit. And they did. And so there was Verlin. He got up to the line and put his foot down and whatever, and he took the first shot. Boom. He went in. That puts us up 2, and he still's got another shot. The official blows a whistle over the line. They grab the ball, throw a long pass. My guys hesitate momentarily because impossible, and they score and win the game. So I leap out of the stands. We were sitting in the stands, and I'm chasing the referee. And he's running up the steps and goes to the, the dressing room, and locks the door. And I get the chair and bang on the door. I'm going to kill him. He's dead. He's dead. That's all. There's no doubt about it. He's dead. I want to kill him. Oh, it was hot. So anyway, then we played him the last game of the year at Follinsby. See, go wait for him. Go wait for him. We destroyed him.
I see the fire in Dad's eyes.
We beat him 30, 40 points. 16 and 1. We should have been 17 and 0. Oh, officials like that, you know, it's ridiculous to cheat. But anyway, but I had, and then, let me tell you this story. See, so now these are my guys, right? So they go and become seniors. Well, when they're seniors, I'm over Big Red, coach. And Goon Dodrell's the coach, see. And so I'd come over and watch some games because it's my team. And after 10 games, they're 1-9. And so I'm at this one game, and I go blue to see the score. And the coach asked me, he says, "Hi, I'm not staying around after the game, I want to talk to you." Okay. And I felt pretty good because Dodrell had coached me. So I always respected him, and he was older, the whole bit, see. So he says to me, he says, "What do you think? What's wrong? What am I doing wrong?" You're asking me? I said, "Well, I'll tell you, the problem." I says, "You've got 2 teams." I said, "and you got to utilize them." I said, you put your tallest guys out on the floor, you've got a team that you can use a zone defense, and they'll be tough. You know, I says, and if you take these certain guys and put them on the bench and bring these other guys out, they've got speed. I says, you got to mix them up. You got to go by the caliber, the talent of people you're playing, and use accordingly. And I says, the next thing, you've got to go into a full court press more often. I says, especially if your team is cold. Your team starts falling behind, the other team gets a touchdown, you don't do anything, they get another touchdown, field goal, you don't do anything, they get another field goal, you don't do anything, boom, timeout. I said, don't wait. I said, zippo. Because when you go into a full court press, they don't have time to think, they don't have time to get nervous, they have to react. And I says, they'll come out of it. And he did it. The second half of the season, 9-1. 9-1. You see, if I had empty, we'd been state champs. Yeah, I was trying to see if anybody knew. Oh, man. See, now I had 7th, 8th, and 9th graders on it. As a freshman team, I had 7th graders. Then I'd work games with just the 7th grade played. I worked games with just the 8th graders. Nobody goes like it. And I maybe had my freshmen and everything like that. But these were good boys, good ball club. Yeah.
What was the name of that team?
That was the Follansbee Blue Wave Freshmen.
And what year?
59,
60. 16-1 was the record.
Really 17-0.
And then here's a picture with one of my celebrity friends, Ray Anthony,
Oh.
the orchestra leader. That was in 1950 at the old
Bethel College. Oh, you're a youngster. I like those old papers, yeah, I like that.
Gotta keep that. Oh, we still got more? Oh. Sing Town. Hard to believe it, huh? Look at that. There it is. See, Lemuel Shepard was our commanding officer, and in the Korean War, he was second in command to MacArthur in the Korean War. And I was talking with him when we had a reunion. It was somewhere around 1973, 74, I'm not sure, at Virginia Beach, Virginia. And he and I were talking, and I realized, man, ask this guy questions. You know, he can tell you anything. And so I was asking about the battle, man. He was gung-ho. You know, he's telling me everything. He lived in La Jolla. He just died here about 2 years ago. And while we were talking, in walked Elizabeth Taylor. And he stopped. He said, "Gee, there's Elizabeth Taylor." He says, "I know her. I've met her at a lot of functions." So I got up and followed her down the hall.
But that's never happened to her before.
And she went into the banquet room there because her husband was the senator, John Warner. And he was giving a speech, and she'd come there. And so I went over and shook her hand and talked to her, you know, hey, whatever, for about 10, 15 minutes. I want to show you a real, look at that. See, that was me, Karen, in those days. The uniform, a little bit. Unreal era. Now see, this ceremony, what we did in China after the war was accept the surrender of all Japanese forces. There were over 1 million Japanese troops still in China. And it was our job to round all the troops up, bring them to Tsingtao, have the surrender ceremonies, and then ship them back to Japan. And so they had a big parade grounds, like a football field, but it was only about 3 times the size of a football field. Big place, open. And so we had this humongous parade. And I'll never forget, because we were marching. We had to march around, you know. But at the last second, I was put in a Jeep because the officer who was supposed to be in the Jeep didn't show up, and they needed someone in that Jeep, see. So I got to ride in the Jeep as if I was an officer and go by the reviewing stand, you know, and do all those things. See, I'm in one of those Jeeps. And see, we were standing out like that. So that was, and I saw all this, you know, all these things that took place. See?
Yeah.
See how big? There's the stand. See? We went by the reviewing stand. See? And the rickshaw, we used to ride in a rickshaw for 1 penny, because the average wage of the Chinese worker in those days was 5 cents a day. Now their money was like 1,300 Chinese dollars to one of ours or something like that. So when you had to have Chinese money, you needed a wheelbarrow to go buy a sandwich or something because there was so much money. Beiping. That's the Forbidden City. One of our guys got to go there. See, we didn't get to travel, I think, because the communists were starting to move. So we couldn't. See, Tsingtao was like a resort town. It had fairly mild climate. In the wintertime, it didn't get too cold, too snowy. It had a lot of summer good weather, but a lot of people went there for vacations and things. See, they didn't show. They don't show where we stayed. We stayed in a building similar to this. It was a 2-story high school, and it was a cement building, and we took the classrooms and made bunk beds. We had about 26 beds in the classroom, and in our classroom, or our classroom, we had about 6 beds in front of a humongous window that looked out on the Yellow Sea, and across the Yellow Sea is Korea. And so at night, we had to be in bed by 9 o'clock, you see. And we had our own local radio station called WXABU. And they played all, of course, the music of the day, Glenn Miller, Benny Goodman, all that stuff like. And we used to lie there in bed at night and dream of home and listen to that music. They would play for a half an hour after the lights were out. And I used to lie there and just look out on the Yellow Sea and whatever. It was amazing. But that was interesting. I wish he would show. Tsingtao. It was nice. We had. You got to realize the period of time. The war had ended, and so there was no need for more and more troops to be sent overseas. And there was a great need to bring back troops who had spent time over there. My buddy had been over there 5 years. And these guys wanted to come home. See, but yet you had ships after ships, hundreds of them, taking supplies over. And they can't just stop on a dime and turn around. So while we were in Tsingtao, we were getting shipments of steaks that there were more steaks than there were guys to feed because so many had gone back. And yet we had to eat them because we didn't have refrigeration. We had some kind of coolers, but they could only go for so many hours or a couple of days or something. So we had, at one period of time, we had steak for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner.
Oh my God.
And at night, we would get down, we called it, in the Marine Corps, you call it the slop chute. That's where you get your candy and beer and sandwiches and things. And so in the evening, we'd get down there and we'd get the free beer and we'd go in the chow hall, make steak sandwiches, and come out and drink beer and steak sandwiches and, relax because, war was over. The pressure was gone, the fear, and everybody was happy, in great moods and things like that. It was a wonderful time. So that was in Tsingtao. Every Saturday, we would go out in the neighborhood and hunt up little kids, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old kids, and we'd bring them back to the barracks and we'd show them cartoons, Mickey Mouse, things like that, and we'd give them a Coke and a Hershey bar. And this is where I met Sugur. She was only 6. And I would meet her every Saturday and bring her in and have the movie in the menu, And then she invited me to her house to eat, which I went, and I can't remember that much, but the mother and father was there, and we had rice, and then we had like a dough ball which I couldn't digest very well. I ate it to please them, but I was ready to, give it back to them any minute. But they were so good, they had nothing.
And
They
you
had
couldn't
nothing.
speak, I mean, they didn't speak English.
No,
Yeah,
they
so
had
you-
to speak.
yeah.
We had books, we'd look out there and simply do whatever. And, but you could do little things, And so I had to go to the bathroom. So I got that out, and then they pointed me to a room. I went in, it was just a regular room. And it was just a hole in the floor, in the wooden floor. And I looked down in there because I didn't know where I was going. And down underneath was a bucket. And then they took it and threw it in the backyard for fertilizer. That's what that was that. Because nothing was wasted. When the Japanese captured Tsingtao in 1941, the Chinese closed all the stores, all the factories, all the businesses. They boarded up everything. And in this one particular store that I visited in 1945, they had buried boxes of cornflakes and bottles of Coke, everything that they had, see, rather than let the Japanese get them. And then 4 years later, we come in, they take the boards off the buildings and bring this stuff out to sell.
Oh my gosh.
Save everything. Save everything. Fabulous. Fabulous. Yeah. Thing you learn about the Chinese is that you never pay what they ask you. They don't expect you to. You always barter. You always, go back and forth. Let's see here. Oh, now this is sad. See this picture here? This was taken in our building. We had a gymnasium. We used to play basketball against Chinese teams. They weren't too bad, but they could jump. They could really get up in the air. We'd beat them because they were pretty small. There weren't too many tall. But we used to put on a show once a week. And while we were there, I sang with a group which I named the Modernaires. No, the Melodiers, not the Modernaires. There were Modernaires. And we were on just before him. And they took pictures of us. So our picture could have just as easily been there. And these were the people. I remember this girl and some of these faces. I remember them. This is where because he went on after us. I remember we went upstairs and practiced and went over our songs and everything. And we were a great hit, Of course, everybody was loose with the applause and things like that. But when I first saw this picture, I thought, see, that could have been us. And these are buddies of mine. George Russ called me the other day. I just got a postcard from a kid I haven't seen since Tsingtao. He sent me a postcard from South Carolina. Can you believe that? Rittenberry. I'll never forget Rittenberry. So anyway, he's remailed it to me. But see, these are the clubs. Yeah. That was a fantastic time. Look at those people. I can remember. I might be in there too somewhere. But I doubt it because we were just on before them. Fantastic. All right. Order blank for additional copies. Imagine underration here. Oh, this is December 7th. Pearl Harbor attack. You remember that, Karen?
Yeah.
But this is the way it was, though.
Yeah.
This is, let's see, this was December 3rd, 1991. I had the original, See, when the war broke out in December 7th, 1941, they censored all the news. All we got in the newspapers on December 8th was that the Japanese had attacked Pearl Harbor, period. That was it. And there was a news blackout for 1 year. It wasn't until, I think it was the 6th of December, 1942, that they showed these pictures and told you about the casualties and the fighting, because it was still you know, touch and go. We weren't out of the
Major
woods.
hysteria.
And, well, see, the West Coast had a blackout for 1 year. There were no lights on in the West Coast, the whole West Coast, for 1 year. Because of the still possibility the Japanese could attack, you see. Arms, Sam Arms, my man Sam. Pictures here. Oh, yeah. This is my brother and I up at the Brook Park. Jeez, Louis. Can you believe that? 1929? And I remember the day. I was 3 years old. I remember the day. We used to go out to Brook Park for family reunions and picnics. But I remember the day we sat in that car and drove around. It was fabulous. That was something.
Now, are you on
There's
the
a
right-
young
you're on the
lady
right-
I've known for years.
Now, is this you over here, Dad? Are you on this side closest to the, are you on the inside or the outside?
That's probably me in the middle.
No, because the other one's 2.5.
Oh, he's
Your
2.5?
friend Earl.
Yeah, that was probably me. Because
The
darker
darker
hair.
hair.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Whatever. Yeah. The old nostalgia. Now, this was in 1948 or something. We had the Pastime Club in Falmouth. It was a great club. We met in the city building, in the basement. We had free rent, free utilities, and we paid 50 cents a month dues. And we would have a meeting on a Sunday. And then guys would go in there in the evening and play cards or play ping pong. And they sold pop and candy and things like that, but they wanted to drink beer, they had to bring it in. But here, Sikalala and I would go over to Gabby's and get a loaf of bread with the beef on it, cut it in half a bunk. We'd go down there and play cards and eat and stuff like that. And so this was a banquet we had. And that's me on the left. All the committee members were at the thing. I was one of the committee guys in charge. And here we have a reunion of the class of 1944, which, by the way, our 50th reunion is coming up
Yes.
in the summertime.
That would be real good if we're back there.
Yeah. So this is our class reunion.
Did you say about 1948, Dad?
Yeah, that had to be maybe 47, even 47, 48. Now here's where I was in one of the men at this wedding. There's 88.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
Whose wedding is
This guy here, I can't remember his name, and the girl,
it? Were they from Boston?
yeah, this is Fallsby, but he wasn't originally from Fallsby. He worked up the Coke plant. We all worked at Coke plant at the time, so he had us all in it. But the girl, this here, remember Gino? The guy to help me with the garage? Did you know him? He was the guy that was in the pen for murder.
Yeah.
And came out and everything. You brought up Bagnosi. Gino Bagnosi? Or was it?
I know that.
But he's Joe Zago's stepbrother.
Oh,
And this was her, his wife's sister.
okay.
So that was that. Ah, look at this computer. Huh? That's worth $1 million right there. Oh, I didn't know we still had this one there. That's great.
Which one's
That's
that?
my mother-in-law.
I want to frame that.
Oh, nice. 1937.
It's beautiful.
See, this was our family reunion in Cleveland, 1937. We went up there. Isn't that nice? See the thing? This is a park. Yeah, that should be in the
Oh,
frame.
absolutely.
Would you have reunions a lot, or?
Every year. You get 50, 60, 70 people. It's a big family. Thomas family, the Goodwin family, I forget the names of them, but they were big families. And up in Cleveland, they would have a reunion every year. And we'd go to them. They were fabulous. Great times. Now Lyman, here's the picture I told you Lyman took
Uh-huh.
when I was in the Boy
Your
Scouts.
Boy Scout uniform.
Oh,
And those culottes.
this was from my girlfriend Wilma. Mother never liked the idea that I kept this picture. And I
I've
kind of
seen
think
that.
she was right, you know, but it wasn't
I
anything
remember.
but just a nostalgia thing.
Dad feels the need to explain this at his age.
Well,
It's okay.
Oh, it's okay.
I've seen that picture before.
This woman
She was real
would
athletic.
have married me any day of the week. After she got
I
married.
remember, you're on tape.
Oh, she was a nice person.
Even after
You ruined it, Karen.
I know. Even after she got married, he said she would have married. She was cute.
Yeah,
This is the
she
Thomas
was.
family history. That's a goodie.
That's a good
It's
one.
one Johnny made up. Oh, my goodness gracious. Here.
Was she from Collinsville?
Where-
Weird.
Yeah, she was a real good kid. She was very athletic, you know, played golf and tennis and all those nice things. Got a nice family. And I dated her for a short while after your mother and I had broken up and weren't seeing each other. Then Will and I dated a little bit, but I didn't want to get involved at the time, you know. And so she was really
What's her last name?
Vitus.
Vitus.
Yeah. Oh, look at this. Now, this is unbelievable here. In the 1930s, during the Great Depression, Wheeling Steel Corporation would sponsor a trip to Chester, to Rock Springs Park. It was a small amusement park. And Wheeling Steel, as you know, is up and down the Ohio River on both sides for about 40, 50 miles. And they would have a train. And the train would stop in every little town. You got on free. All the employees and their family of Wheeling Steel, and it would take them up to Chester. And then everybody'd get off and go into the park free, and you'd get free ice cream and free pop and free rides. Now, food you had to provide yourself. And this was done every year, and it would take forever for the train, because they stopped everywhere. If you were walking along the tracks, they'd stop and pick you up. And you know, as a sidelight, it's so, what a coincidence that here, before I came to California 5 years ago, I lived in Chester, right where the train stopped. The tracks are still there. I lived in a cabin behind a house where they rented these cabins at that time
Yeah.
for Rock Springs Park. Of course, it's gone now and everything else, but it was tremendous to think of that at the time, you know. But my brother's in one of these pictures. Oh, these were great. I mean, you can't believe it. Everybody was happy. You had softball games, they had boxing matches, they had all kind of events you run, and everybody laughed and joked, and it was just fun. It was a beautiful era, beautiful period of time. So sad. So sad that it's gone. We used to wait every year for this event. There he is. That's my brother Bill.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh boy. Now here's a booklet. In 1943, when I joined the Marine Corps, and they give us this booklet of boot camp. You know, where the things you probably expect.
That's
Now,
got
the Leatherneck is the Marine Corps magazine. It's still out. In fact, Charlie still gets a Leatherneck. But I got an issue of it a few years ago, and it was all about the 6th Marine Division.
Where's your patch at?
My who?
Your patch.
My division patch?
Yeah.
I still have it.
You have it.
Yeah. Yeah. This tells the whole story. That's come apart, see? a badge.
Yeah.
I was in the 4th Regiment on Guadalcanal at first, then I went to the 15th, but I was in the 4th.
That was the one that got wiped out before.
Yep. I was
You
in
got-
the platoon, every guy was killed, everyone.
And you just got moved out of
Transferred
that
2 weeks before that to the 15th.
for whatever reasons.
That they had put me in, what happened, when we went overseas, see, we were on this humongous troop ship, 5,000 troops. Well, you got all kinds, you got infantrymen, you got communications, you got artillery, you got all kinds of sections and groups. And when we got off the ship on Guadalcanal, there were trucks to take us to the different bases, and they would call your name out. Well, when they called mine out, they sent me to the wrong truck. It was just error, no biggie.
Right. It's amazing
And-
they keep track that well.
Oh, they have to, they
Yeah.
have to, but it's fabulous. But anyway, so in the meantime, now, after a few months there, then going through their records and everything, they find out that I was in the wrong outfit, and so they contacted my officer, and they had me transferred, see. And,
And
and that saved me because the platoon, when we went to Okinawa, I never went ashore till the second day. I wasn't in the first wave, the first day. And the 4th Marine Regiment led to that. They're the most famous regiment in the Marine Corps, 4th Marines. Most combat experience, most everything. And the regiment is 4,000 men. So they all went ashore, and the first couple of days there was hardly any fighting. And so the platoon I was in, 35 men, were going through this valley on patrol, see, and there was nothing there but just the wilderness, they could see, but the Japanese were in caves that were concealed, and they couldn't see them. And they were on both sides of the ravine. And so once the Marines got into a particular area, they opened up and had a chance. Killed them instantly. And I never knew that until we went to Guam. When we returned to Guam after the war, after the battle, why, I went down to visit my buddies, got the news, everyone. It was unreal. You can't explain it. So, that's how it was on Guadalcanal. See, that's what Guadalcanal was like. Guadalcanal was an island 90 miles long and 15 miles wide. It's a beautiful place, green, just tropical jungle. We used to train, and there was so much jungle that we had to crawl on our bellies with machetes to get through the jungle, cut as we went, inch by inch. And of course there were millions of bugs and lizards and snakes and everything that come across, all kind of animals underneath there, And it was mountainous, plus there was one river, the Tanaroo River, and it was ice cold because we used to go swimming along the beach and it was too warm because Guadalcanal's on equator temperatures between 90 and 150, 115 every day. Just hot, unbelievable, all year, and high humidity. Rains every day. It's raining somewhere, you can see it. It rains on you, it just rains, see. And it was so hot that we would train from 4 in the morning till 11 in the morning. We couldn't train in the afternoon. It was too hot. You couldn't move. So we'd go swimming, see. But it was so hot along the beach that we would get in rubber rafts and go all the way out in the ocean as far as we could go, and then swim where the water would be a little cooler. But we came across the Tanaroo River, and here was ice cold. And we couldn't be happier, because it was so hot. And that's where we'd go swim. That was a famous place. Yeah. It's hard to believe that's 50 years ago. See, now Ernie Powell was killed on Okinawa. He was a reporter. He was the most famous columnist in World War II. He wrote about the troops, and he had written all over Europe, and then he wanted to, he heard so much about the Marines, he wanted to join the Marines in the Pacific and write about them, see, and so he joined our outfit, and he got killed before he could write about it. Yeah, but no outfit like the 4th Marines. Hard to believe, hard to explain.
And there's the old,
Marine album. See, now this was how we lived on Guadalcanal. And they have to be absolutely perfect. If one tent is out of line, you don't change that one. You change all the other ones. That's how they teach you
Oh,
discipline.
my
You change every one. There's 50 tents in a row, and they look, if you set them up and the commander officer says, oh, that number 10, number 5 is out of line, you change every tent but number 5. See, the idea is, people don't understand that. You got your eye on everybody. Everybody has his eye on everybody else, make sure everybody's doing the right thing. And so therefore you'll make these kind of mistakes. Whoa. There we are.
Oh, my, Dad, I've never seen these pictures.
Isn't that wonderful?
That's wonderful.
That's my
I'm
brother.
glad you-
Look at my hair.
I know, look at you.
My dad when he was in the Navy.
You're kidding.
See, he was in the Navy right after World War I, 1918. Just the war just ended when he went in the Navy. That's my brother Bill, and I was taking out Bethany. That's when he worked in the, that's when he worked as an usher in the Strand Theater in Falmouth for $1 a week. Worked 6 days a week for $1. And my mother bought him this suit. Cost $20.
Mm.
He used to walk up and down with the flashlight and lead you to your seats, you know. Amen. Here's Bill. There's a good picture of Bill.
Yeah.
Nice. Now this here was taken from the roof of our compound in Tsingtao, where I stayed. I took this picture and there's some out in the LSC,
Oh,
ships out there, things like that. This thing is here. Let's see what it is.
Is there a picture on it, maybe?
Now this,
Oh,
oh, this was our team. Look at this guy.
I see Fuzi's name.
Look at that, Joe Mateer, Herman Rogers, Fuzi, Lefty Brooks, Bill
Now, when
Thomas,
was this?
manager. This probably had to be around 1941. Well, this was our team. Tony Thomas, left fielder and pitch. Brian Beaver, Jay Leon, Ori O'Malley. He just moved back to Fonsby.
Yeah?
Jimmy Dobbs, Tom Ghetto, Chester Rogers, John Rogers, Caesar, Ernest Denise, George McFadden.
George Ross, he was, I don't know.
Yeah, George is terrible.
Colliers, Coketown.
Sam Ciccarella and Chuck Finley were the scorekeepers. Is in that side.
That's great.
This, my brother wrote this.
That's something.
Fantastic, huh? Greatest era of all time. I knew I had that somewhere, but I didn't know where.
Yeah,
Let's
see,
where I
I'm
had
glad.
it.
I figured this was gonna have some good stuff in it.
Oh, yeah, let's just keep this stuff here. Now, this was Paris Island. See how we have the wooden barracks?
Uh-huh.
Just hurried up in there. We're standing on top of our school building in
Okay.
China.
Uh-huh.
That's Theo Clymer, a buddy of mine up in
Yes.
New Jersey. And this is Jack Wood that we stopped in Vestal, New York after we had gone up to see
Cooperstown.
Cooperstown.
Uh-huh.
And I stopped there. I stopped at that phone booth and called him.
Yeah.
And behind us was the shoe factory where my grandmother worked. When I came home and told my mother I'd been the best in New York, she almost told me, she said, I used to live there. I said, I can't believe that. And she never told me that story. See, I never knew about her original father. I knew her stepfather, but I never ever talked to her much about her father. And she said, well, you know, that's where they moved to for a while, and Grandma worked in that shoe factory. I can't tell you. Now, this is on Okinawa. This was after we had captured the northern end of the island, got captured and killed all the Japs and took over the whole northern end. And now we were standing by for orders. And we were supposed to go to Guam. We were supposed to be done. But the 24th Army Division wasn't cutting it on the southern end where all the action was. And so we had to replace them.
Wow.
They had been there 40 days and not moved 1 foot. We were there 1 week and broke the enemy's back. We broke the lines, went through, and it was all over. 1 week. Now this is me. This is inside the room where we built the pumps. See? Now this is, there I am on a rickshaw. And this is at the, down at Camp Lejeune. There's Tio and I. Now this is a burial vault. That's me. Okay. And this is a burial vault on Okinawa. What they do, they don't bury their dead under the ground. They cut them up and put them in urns.
They don't burn them first?
No,
They just,
they put some kind of liquid on them.
Formaldehyde like?
Yeah, something like to preserve them. They put them in urns. Yeah. Now this is Sugur. See?
I knew you had.
There's Sugur. See?
Oh,
Sugur.
so she's
Well,
only
they're-
in her late 50s.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
She's
Sugur was 6
56?
years old in 45, so that's, yeah, 56 years old. She'd still be cutting around over here. Look at me with that little kid.
I know.
This is our school building. There it is. I don't remember if I had the picture or not. Now I'm in this picture. This was our battery. And now here's a family who I met, and their daughter was a school teacher. And I went and visited them. There's Okinawa. And this is Tio's girlfriend. No. This was Mei Ling.
I thought maybe that was.
No, this was, wait a minute. Jesus, that's been a long time ago. I think they're both the same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe.
this is Mei Ling and this is Mei Ling. And this, he wanted to marry her.
Really?
Yeah. But I think what it was, I think Tio, you know, he went in at 17, he was young and hadn't gone around too much, and I think he just really fell for a woman, you know, a girl and everything like that. And then when he got home, he's glad he didn't marry her. There I am in a rickshaw. See that in China?
Yeah.
The guys pulled me around. And this is Tio's lady, Wo Ping. That was Wo Ping. This is a wedding procession. And they don't see each other. The two people getting married do not see each other until after they're married.
The ceremony's performed without them seeing each
They don't
other.
see each other. They're both separated. Because they don't marry for love. They marry for survival. In those days. I mean, the family of one
So,
picks the man
chosen.
and the girl like that sort of thing.
Eat the chimneys.
Now there's the 6th Marine Division Cemetery that I helped build. We used Japanese prisoners to dig 1,600 graves.
And you bury them over there?
Yeah. And then, of course, after the war,
They bring them
they
back.
brought it back.
Oh.
They went back and they had what they call graves registration group. Now there's my brother and there's Clyde. You never knew Clyde. Clyde was a Williams, Doris's brother. He got killed in an automobile wreck just before the war. Bethany.
I need to write that down. William Clyde Williams.
Yeah. Clyde Williams. Now there this is with Tio and his wife, their son. And here's my brother Bill with George Moore. It's George Moore. And This is me when I was at Bethany College. There's, look my mother and father.
See, I wouldn't know that.
Wait a minute, yeah.
Gosh, how old do you think they were?
Oh, show me. And here's Buzz Austin. He went to college in 54.
Yeah.
You see him like playing ball. That's Bethany College. Isn't that neat? Gee. Yeah.
Oh,
There's we are on the ball diamond there. That's just when the Yanks were trying to sign me, but I refused to go. I want to get educated. There's Buzz. This kid lives out in California. I should look him up. He's a character. There's Coach John Knight. He ended up out in La Jolla. See, practice baseball in the wintertime.
mm-hmm.
Terrible. Oh, there's City View Inn. Oh no, that's Tri-State. Tri-State, there's the one, man.
Oh, that wasn't the one you organized, or was it?
No, this was the railroad team. The one I was, that took over as manager and brought them from last place to first place, and then we won the playoffs, and then we won the division championship, and then we won the regional championship. That was City View Inn. I bet it's clean up on that team.
Yeah.
Okay, fourth one. There you go, man, at the reunion. Stinky. Oh, Stinky boy, he fall into it. There's another team. Oh, this is my Grant.
There's your guys.
Now, this team was 16-0. Right, the first year I coached over there. Of course, some of them are older than I was. But there's my football players.
You got some good teams.
And here's when I coached the intramurals at Bethany. We won every year. Never lost the championship. And here's where we were down in a few, and we had a little party up the hill. That's Tri-State. Oh, this was when we had the big shindig. Okay, there we are. Who's good picture? Well, it's a good picture.
Yeah.
It was a good picture. There I am over in China. And there's the Marine barracks. You went to the Marine barracks. See, I don't have my division patch in here. Do I? Any more pages? No, I should have my patch in here. Well, this was at the reunion. Now there's Jack Wood at the reunion, see?
Mm-hmm.
And Gleader. Gleader was in one of those pictures. There we went to the reunion down in Washington, D.C. Yeah, that's pretty good, dude.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Food and here, come on you old graduating with a young lad. It's Mosby High School, now we cheer. Rock, rock.
This is a service 5 that Sonny Thomas has awarded the school letter in basketball for the season 1942-43.
That must have been your junior year?
That was my junior year,
'Cause
then
you
I
didn't
enlisted in the
play,
Marine Corps.
yeah.
I didn't play my
Play your
senior
senior
year.
year.
Dummy. Dummy. But it's not a ball dummy. Oh, we got a little something here. Somebody got a card.
Some letters.
Cards, ain't that fun? Cards, Merry Christmas. Gee
Take
whiz.
all those down?
Yeah, I got all every one you guys ever sent.
God.
Huh?
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Gee.
Oh, yeah. Look at I kept Karen.
Now, why did you keep that? Boy, look at that TV guide, how skinny.
1982.
There are only 3 channels.
Yeah.
1982. I figured
Just to keep one.
keep one. I said,
Yeah.
you know, 10, 20 years from now, it's going to mean something here. What programs there were.
Right.
Yeah.
When you could actually read it and not have to take
Jefferson,
42
yeah.
hours.
What's on right now?
Thursday,
Friday
Friday
at-
night at
Okay, let's see.
8:30.
Friday at 8:30,
What could we be watching?
we would have a choice.
Ooh, a choice.
Oh, yeah. 8:30 is the Cotton Bowl Review,
Ooh.
or Wall Street Week with Louis Ruckser.
Rukeyser.
And he's still on.
Yeah. That's
But we gotta go back to
national.
8 o'clock because that's when the story, we have
Okay.
Benson, the Dukes of Hazzard, the King Orange Jamboree Parade, the Blue Bonnet Bowl, Washington Charlie's Angels, Stir Crazy, Dallas,
Yeah, because that's December.
Knight Rider, Starsky and Hutch, Falcon Crest. Are you kidding?
That's great.
All them quality. Oh, here's all the cemeteries of the military all over the world. There's another good jiggy there. Now we're getting down here to the nitty gritty. Oh boy. Okay.
First of
Now
all,
look at this guy. What year it is? Students receive annual awards. To honor students who have performed outstanding feats in athletics and other activities during the year, Award Day was held on Friday, May 3rd. Eighth grade boys who won the senior high school basketball tournament were presented with blue and white ribbons with their name on them. Mr. Carlin Dotto presented them to the following: Joe Sebastinelli, Joe Boney, Joe McTeer, Donald Lewis, Jack Morris, James Thomas, and Rocky Salentino.
eighth graders that won.
Yeah, we won the senior championship. As I say, if I don't go in the service and Joe Sebastinelli don't transfer to Steubenville Central, we're unbeaten. The team without us went to the semifinals and got beat in a double overtime at sudden death. And not saying this bragging or anything, but we were the stars, and we weren't even there. The two top guys on the team were played, see? And we played from 5th grade on, together. That's why we were good, you see, same guys all the time. Can you believe this? Now, this is the Morse code with the flag. See, when I first went overseas with the Marine Corps, I was in communications at first, and I had to learn how to get the code.
And that's it.
I just wrote that out. See, what's my number? 551460. Ah, look at this here. Look at this here. This is the People's Herald, Tsingtao, China. 300 Marines and 100 Tsingtao girls celebrate Marine Corps birthday.
These girls had it made.
Specialty acts presented by men of the battalion included 2 red-hot numbers by the Melodiers,
Ooh.
a quintet of Leathernecks, Private First Class J.R. Hollenbaugh of Maytown, Pennsylvania, Private First Class T.L. Clymer of Germantown, Pennsylvania, Private James Thomas of Fallsby, West Virginia. Huh?
That's great.
This was in the Chinese paper. 2 red-hot numbers.
You were big in China, huh?
Yeah, that's where I went. I should never left. I should never left. Oh, give me spread.
We've got lots of patches down.
Oh, geez, I got patches
Good.
going. I'm looking.
But are those your originals or those some?
These are originals.
Okay.
These
Those
are, see, the other ones, now see, this is my Fleet Marine Force. That should be on my jersey. I'd have put that on my jersey.
You still have your jacket, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't, the pants finally
Gave out.
bit the dust. The, whatever gets it, got them. Yeah, these were bought 100 years ago.
Uh-oh.
James Thomas Farm. Oh, look at it. Oh,
Oddfellow?
What are
Little
those?
Cleveland
favorites.
Indians buttons. Those are,
1948.
Those
Hey,
are
I can tell you,
excellent.
yeah.
no, you can't.
But these are worth something, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
1948.
Oh my gosh, they
Those
sure
are great.
There's my medal skin.
There's your medal.
Marksman.
Oh, Wow.
Submachine gun, machine gun, and hand grenade. I was a killer them
You
days.
could put your medals in with Pluto and Goofy.
I know.
Look at that.
That was another medal for something. There's a couple more. They're all going down to 2, bayonet. Those are my- See, I ought to put these on my jersey.
Wow.
Leave it on there. There's the Chinese medal. Chinese. These are on here. Neat. You know, star means combat.
Oh,
You have a
okay.
star in them, that's combat. I should. And what do we have here?
You've got little Walt
Mickey
Disney
Mouse,
characters.
Mickey Mouse. Oh, look. Ritzy.
That
It's a
box
good
is
box.
old. Yeah.
Oh, that box is
That
goes
goes
back
back.
there too, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I might have to. They try to get them, they'd want to give me 39 cents for them, and then they'd sell them for 5,000. Whoop. Entry scene, milk chocolates.
Wow.
Yeah. Look in this box.
Oh, this was the MacArthur's tapes of, the
Yes.
speeches he made. I wonder
Uh-huh.
if they're any good. He probably won't play now. This is some napkin, that's the president's. Win with Jim.
What did you run for?
That's kind of catchy.
Oh, I remember that.
You know, they got them in '67. In '67, when we were out in Davis. This was the war on drugs. Karen, you might be able to use that. I don't know if that's any value anymore, because here's the sounds of Yankee Stadium
Oh my God.
Oh, that is
by Mel Allen.
collector's Allen.
That'd be a collector's item, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who has that?
I don't know.
Narrated by Mel Allen, Red Barber, Kurt Gotti, Phil Rizzuto. Oh, this is the house of the week. This is a house, I wish I'd have seen this, I'd have built this house. This house, see that, Karen?
Oh, uh-huh.
For back to the ring. There's the blankets.
Look at that. You really like that, Sandra.
Well,
Yeah.
It's beautiful, huh? Yeah, this, picked that up one day and I said, oh, maybe I'll build another one.
Tell you how much it is.
Okay. Now, you wouldn't believe that, Steve, but this is 1950 baseball with all the Cleveland Indians players on it. Look, they're off.
Oh, the ink. Oh.
It's still in.
Nice.
Still, I wonder if something could do like a solution that would bring that ink back.
Yeah.
Well, you
Is
can
this
still
see
see
some,
Is this a secret weapon here?
What is-
Oh, look at this here.
Which it's a Chinese beer or
Chinese
something.
beer.
That's not,
Tsingtao.
Or did you
I didn't
buy
bring
that?
it back from China.
Right.
But I
But you
bought
found
this somewhere. Let's see.
Yeah.
Out here.
Here, I
You can
thought
buy that
so.
in Mesa.
yeah, but it was just something to keep.
Oh. But see, they sold it in quarts. It was called Piju. That means beer in Chinese.
You remember that?
When you have your Marine reunion, you should bring a case of that or something.
Well, I intended it. That's when I bought this. See, we were having it in St. Louis, and I was going to bring 2 6-packs, and take them to the
When's
butt.
your next one?
Well, they're every year, but somehow I got off the mailing list.
You need to get
When's
back
the
on that.
I
next
need to
big
back
one?
up. It'll be in September.
What
I mean,
year is
August.
that?
What year will be the, like, 40th 45.
Been a lot of,
Oh,
Oh, look at those. I wanna get a license plate.
once a Marine, always a Marine, doesn't it?
That's right.
No, that's it, Hank. I think,
That was good stuff.
Yep, that did it. All secret. No. Yeah.
well,
Good stuff.
yeah, that's pretty good, but you know what I don't have?
What?
What's this, December 22nd, 91?
What I don't have are the pictures of my brother and I.
Up in Cleveland, you know, when we were on the bicycle, out on the yard. Your mother has to have them somewhere, or I might have thrown them
I'd
away.
be surprised
No, I mean,
People don't know.
though. No, and I need to.
See,
know.
when World War II broke out, the thing that saved the United States was the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean, because the Japanese were on one side and the Germans were on the other. But in those days, planes couldn't fly across the ocean without refueling, and they couldn't refuel in the air. And so there was no immediate danger of being attacked after Pearl Harbor. And so we had time to prepare. And so the Marine Corps created what was known as Raider battalions at first. These were 1,000 men organizations, and they were sent out in the Pacific to land behind Japanese lines and disrupt communications, see how many Japs were on the island, and survey. You know, they would like go ashore like at 12 midnight from a submarine, a small number, you know, and then the sub would come back 3 nights later at 2 in the morning and pick them up and they'd go, that sort of thing. And so they did hit and run tactics to slow down the Japanese advance while we were trying to get prepared, you see. And then, let's see, one of these Raider battalions was known as Colonel Edson's. He was a famous Marine. Then Colonel Jimmy Roosevelt, the president's son, he had one of them. And Merrill's Marauders, he was another Marine that had them. These were all tough, hardened combat people. And then, after a period of time, they combined these 4 Raider battalions and made it the 4th Marine Regiment. So you see here was a super experienced, combat trained team ready to go, you see. And then, in the meantime, there were 2 divisions, and a division has 20,000 troops in it. There's 4 regiments in a division, 4,000 in each regiment. That's 4 4s or 16,000. Then you have your service and supply, and your headquarters, your office people, your truck drivers, and things like that make up the difference. See? And so as the war was going on, they added the 3rd Marine Division, the 4th Marine Division, and the 5th Marine Division. The 6th Marine Division, which is the one I was in, was formed in 1944. And it was formed with some of the regiments that had fought in the Pacific as regiments. And one of them was the 4th Marines. And then there was the 22nd Marine Regiment, the 29th Marine Regiment, and the 15th Marine Regiment, all combined to form the 6th Marine Division. And so we were brought together on Guadalcanal and trained there as a division. And our only combat was Okinawa. We went in there as a division. Then when the war ended, we went to China. 3 of the regiments went to China, and the 4th Marine Regiment went to Japan. The first American soldiers ashore in Japan after the Japanese surrender were Marines from the 4th Marine Regiment. They preceded MacArthur and everybody else. They were the first ones. And when they waited, because I talked to many of them in China, here they were getting off these troop transports and going in amphibious boats and then being let out in the water and walking ashore, going up against an enemy that just 2 weeks earlier was killing everybody. And, you know, they could have been easily wiped out. At the time, in Tokyo, the Japanese had 3 million troops and 8 million civilians armed, and 11,000 suicide submarines and 11,000 suicide planes that they were keeping in readiness for the invasion of Japan. They were going to fight. They were going to fight to the end. Thank God for the atomic bomb, because there would have been 1 million more casualties of Americans had the bomb never been dropped, you see. But once it was dropped, that changed the whole ballgame. But the 4th Marine Regiment in the annals of war history is the most famous. Just super people that from their experience and training and everything. But there no longer is now. What we have today is the 6th Marine Division. Well, there's a spatial name for it. Just a organization of former Marines who meet once a year for nostalgia and things like that. But it's not the actual division. There is no. In fact, I think there are only 3 Marine divisions at the present time. Maybe a 4th. But they're in peacetime. They're under strength. They're not the full amount because they're not needed. See, that's right. And Marines are used for embassy duty throughout the world. All your embassies. We have an embassy in almost every country, over 175 countries. So they do the embassy duty and the guarding of the president, the White House, and board ship. They do all the guarding aboard ships, naval ships, because you have passageways that sailors aren't allowed to go through. I mean, just they're restricted, and the Marines stand guard, that sort of thing. When I was in the Marine Corps, I was issued special uniform because I was going to be sent to Rio de Janeiro to be on embassy duty. I got white uniforms, white gloves, white hat, everything. I got everything ready to go. But at that moment, we were engaged in the Battle of Tarawa, and there was tremendous casualties, very, very bad. We suffered tremendously in that battle. We won it, but at a great loss of life. And so there was a need to replenish those who had been killed and wounded. And so 50% of those of us who were going to embassy duty had to go to combat duty, and I was one of them. See, otherwise I would have spent 2 years in Rio de Janeiro on the beach of Ipanema. When you're a Marine at embassy duty, you change your uniform 4 times a day. That's how spick and span and neat you have to be. It's phenomenal. Yeah. But, oh yeah, tremendous. Said, did I tell you I ran into Charlie before I came over here?
Yeah.